شريك لك لبيك إن الحمد والنعمة لك والملك لا شريك لك لبيك لبيك اللهم لبيك لبيك لا شريك لك لبيك إن الحمد والنعمة لك والملك لا شريك لك لبيك لبيك اللهم.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ونبينا محمد وآله الطاهرين. We were discussing about the rules of performing Hajj, and we said that once in a lifetime it is compulsory for a person who is able and capable, financially able, physically capable, and if the trip is possible, then it becomes wajib on that person once in a lifetime to perform the Hajj. And this is known as Hajjatul Islam. And Hajjatul Islam is made up of two parts. One is the Umrah, the lesser pilgrimage, and the other one is the Hajj, the bigger pilgrimage. The lesser pilgrimage is known as Umrah to Tamattu' for those pilgrims who come from 90 kilometers plus away from Makkah. Anybody staying within 90 kilometers of Makkah is not allowed to perform the Hajj, Umrah Tamattu' or Hajj Tamattu'. For them there is another type of Hajj to be performed. So the first part of this pilgrimage will be the Umrah to Tamattu'. Umrah to Tamattu' has several parts. The wajib parts are, one is to enter into the state of Ihram, but at the designated place known as Miqat. If a person wants to enter into Ihram before the designated station of Miqat, then the only way the person can do that is to make a nadhr. A nadhr, which means I'm making a vow to God in return and in gratitude for some affliction that has been removed or some benefit that has been gained, that I will do something which is allowed in the Sharia. I will do it as a wajib act. So to enter into Ihram at the Miqat is the requirement, but as an exception we are allowed to enter into Ihram even before the Miqat by nadhr. But normally there is no reason to do this, because if that was the case, then the Holy Prophet ﷺ should have done it, then the Imams of the Ahlul Bayt ﷺ should have done it, but we don't have this in the history. So at the Miqat, we enter into the state of Ihram known as Masjid Shajara. Once we are into the state of Ihram, certain restrictions begin to apply. Restrictions which are comparable to the restrictions that apply, let's say, once we're in the state of Ibadah for Salah, 10 restrictions apply. Can't eat and drink and jump and look right and left and talk and laugh, or the restrictions that apply in the state of fasting. But for Ihram, there are more, 26, as we're discussing. And once we're in the state of Ihram, then we make our journey to Makkah for the Tawaf, and then the Salatul Tawaf, and then the Sa'i between Safa and Marwa, and finally we come out of Ihram by the Taqsir. Inshallah, we'll discuss all these steps. So the important thing is, once we enter into the state of Ihram, there is a spiritual state of mind that we need to enter into. And Ihram means for the sake of Allah, and in preparation for visiting the house of Allah and becoming the special privileged, honored guest of God, and therefore to deserve His grace and mercy and pardon and rewards. For that sake, I'm entering into the state of Ihram. But Ihram is not only the 26 physical restrictions. More important, as Imam Zainul Abidin alayhi salam tells Shibli, that when you made the niyyah for the umrah and for the hajj and for entering into ihram? Did you make the niyyah that قَدْ حَلَّلْتَ كُلَّ عَقْدٍ لِغَيْرِ اللَّهِ, that now the only obligation that you will respect and you will follow is your obligation to Allah. Any other contractual obligations you have with other creation, that will not supersede that of God. If God allows and the Sharia sanctions and the Sunnah and the Seerah of the Prophet and the Imams ﷺ endorse it, no problem, you'll honor those contracts. And also, in the state of Ihram, did you make the niyyah that حَرَّمْتَ عَلَى نَفْسِكَ كُلَّ مُحَرَّمٍ, that it's not only the 26 items which you will make haram for yourself, but like 26, anything and everything else which is prohibited, you will strictly observe that and avoid them. So the spirit of ihram is to discipline ourselves and to train ourselves to become God conscious and to follow God's laws more carefully and more totally. And we said that in order to understand and remember these restrictions, we could categorize and alphabetize them into groups. So group A, I said, was, we can call it the apparel restrictions. So for gents, no shade from the sun or the rain. For the gents, no head cover. For the ladies, no face cover and no gloves, stitched gloves. And for the gents, 2-piece unstitched clothing. And for the gents, no footwear which covers the total of the upper part of the foot. In the category B, which we can name as the beauty category, so no application of the eyeliner, for example, no looking into the mirror for beautification, no application of oil for beautification, no nail trimming, no hair trimming, and no application of perfume. This is what I'm going to discuss now a little more in detail. Perfumes are something which human beings naturally like, because by definition a perfume is something which is of pleasant, agreeable, fragrant smell and odor. And in the past, human beings used to identify natural objects, be it plants, be it animals, which had some good smell. So animals, for example, musk comes from the deer, amber or amber comes from the sperm whale. Plants, fragrant, good smelling plants, could be leaves of plants like saffron, could be the bark of a plant like cinnamon. Cinnamon is used in the preparation of many perfumes. Could be wood itself of the plants like sandalwood, could be the petals of the flower. Majority of perfumes are from flowers, rose or violet or tuberose or jasmine, or no, even gum from the tree, kafur and camphor is again from. Kafur is not so much to give good smell as much as to stop the bad smell. So that's why it's used for the mayyit. So the ruling about the use of perfume, it's natural. Human beings like to smell fresh and presentable and acceptable and sociable. And therefore it is also a sunnah min sunanil mursaleen. All the messengers, not only the last, all the messengers loved perfumes. It is definitely mustahab to be presentable. Makruh to present yourself in a way that you give bad, offensive, noxious, pungent smells. But in the state of ihram, no. What is mustahab now becomes haram. Why? We'll try to understand this a bit later. And all the mazhabs, all the Muslims agree on this fact that ultimately, by avoiding good fragrance we achieve a state of simplicity, and traveling in the open and in the desert in the past, nowadays is more artificial. You become dusty, and God loves a person who, for the sake of Him, puts himself into exertion and becomes dusty. So we need to understand what is the perfume that is prohibited. There are several sources. Are only some perfumes, the natural ones, prohibited? What about the synthetic ones? What about the names which are not mentioned in the hadith, other perfumes? And how and which use or type of use of perfume is prohibited? Are there any exceptions? What about if something is not perfume? There's no liquid, there's no spray. It's a flower, but it's good smelling. What about herbs? Good smelling. What about fruits? Some fruits may be pleasant to smell and eat. So prohibitions, they apply to good scent. What about if there's a bad scent? Is there any requirement in the state of ihram? And finally, modern man has reached a point where he has taken a little of perfume and brought it to all aspects of his life. So now there's a whole toiletries industry. Toilet water, the toiletries, that is, 2% perfume. I don't know, colognes, 5% perfume. The normal sprays, you may have 10% perfume. The essence may have even 20%, and then it's mixed with alcohol or water or any other solvent. But perfumes have spread everywhere now. So then what happens to something which is not only perfume? It's a necessity we need to use, or no, it's a luxury item we use, but it is perfume. What rules apply to such items? These are the questions we're going to look into. So the first thing, what is perfume? Basically, any item which fragrances and gives a good smell to the body or to the dress or to the food. Specifically in the hadith, musk is mentioned, amber and saffron. Saffron for eating. Camphor is mentioned. But what about other items? No, the fatwa says even other perfumes. So maybe there may not have been rose in Arabia, for example. No, but if it's a perfumed, a source of perfume, then even rose and jasmine and other flower sources of perfumes become haram. What type of use, or how should the use be which is restricted in the state of ihram? The answer is any type of use of perfume, be it by applying to the body or dress, be it just smelling, you don't apply, just smell, haram. Be it consuming, like za'afaran, be it applying as a dye and a coloring agent, be it smoke, the buhur. Or incidentally, the word perfume is from per and fumus. It's the fumes, it's the smoke which spreads all over that makes it the perfume. In old times, that was the main method of extracting the good smell from the natural sources. Or to apply it to the dress. All of this is haram in the state of ihram. The only one exception, of course, is if there is the natural perfume. I don't know if you've seen the news recently, they have already changed the kiswa of the Kaaba. Normally, they apply some specific perfume to the kiswa and the cover of the Kaaba, which in the riwayat is known as khuluqul Kaaba. That is an exception. So you can't, one of the ulama says, well, if it becomes haram to smell this type of perfume, it's just like some person, I'm going for tawaf, and then he can't do tawaf because his nose has to be closed from that good smell. That becomes an exception. Alright, what if it's not perfume as such? The liquid, the spray is not there. It's the flower, a good smelling flower. No, if it's good smelling, and if it is the perfume type of flower, haram to smell that flower. Again, exception is you're traveling in the desert and the wild desert flowers. They've been mentioned, a few names have been mentioned in the riwayat. What about fruits? Flowers, I don't think so will be a problem for us, but fruits, yes. So if you're saying good smell not allowed, is it only the perfume good smells? But there are many other things which are not perfume, but they have a good smell. For example, an apple or a quince, some people are sensitive. There's one man, he tells me, I walk in the corridor of my house and I know my wife what she's cooking. Some people are very sharp in their noses. So if you get the good smell of a fruit, is that allowed or not? How much of fragrance is not allowed in ihram? Or no, there are some herbs which will be used, for example, in the food. Either mint or cinnamon or cardamom or the other spices, for example. How much is allowed and not allowed in the state of ihram? Well, the ruling for that is no problem, you can eat. These are basic food items. But if the smell is good, then you make sure that you close your nose and then you eat it. Haram to smell, but permissible to eat. What about cooking oil? Well, cooking oil normally is not perfume, but if za'faran is added to it, then it becomes haram. However, if the cooking oil itself is of a type which gives good smell, then again, you can eat the cooking oil, but you don't smell it. Close your nose. What if a person comes across a place, maybe the washroom, maybe you're walking from the building to the haram, you're still in the state of ihram, and there's some garbage on the way, or there's some bad smell coming from somewhere. Incidentally, in the state of ihram, this is known as ra'ihatul khabitha. The good smell is known as ra'ihatul tayyiba. As far as the khabitha, bad smells are concerned, the ruling is you must not close your nose, haram, meaning that you must smell that bad scent. However, you don't necessarily have to stand there and continue smelling it. You don't have to slow down and take in all the bad smell. No, you're allowed to move away from there speedily. Or, no, you're going from the building to the haram, you are in the state of ihram, and on the way there's a perfume shop. Aha, perfume shop, you are not allowed to stop and take the good smell, no. Or no, there's another Hajji or Hajjiya, they've already done their Umrah, they've come out of ihram, and it's mustahab, the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, to apply perfume, and they've heavily dosed themselves with good smelling perfume. And they're coming out of the haram and you're going into the haram. No, if you come across good smell from somebody else, you must hold your nose and stop smelling. But there's a problem. And the problem is, how long can you hold your nose? Well, you start moving away from there as fast as you can. But when you're becoming breathless, and of course you're allowed to take a breath. This is serious. Serious in the sense that somebody who deliberately breaks this law, there is a penalty to be paid. Not only is it haram, there's a penalty to be paid. And that penalty is $100. One sheep has to be sacrificed. But it's not any use of perfume. Smelling the perfume, haram, but no kafara. Applying the perfume to the dress deliberately, that is haram and has a kafara. Or no, consuming and eating perfumed food, for example, za'faran food, it is haram and there is a kafara for that. But but smelling the perfume, haram, but no kafara. Other cases, mustahab, to pay a kafara. What if somebody applies perfume to their ihram dress, or no, it wasn't applied, it was kept in a bag. The bag had leaking bottles of perfume, or no, it was in touch with other dresses which were perfume, and you didn't realize, and you wore your ihram, suddenly you realize, oh my God, my dress is perfumed. No, ihtiyat wajib, remove that ihram dress, buy another one which is not perfumed, or go and wash this and dry it. In this dry weather, it will dry very fast, no problem. What if it's not dress, because what is haram and has kafara is the food and the dress. What if somebody has eaten food, they were not in ihram, mashallah, farewell dinner at Medina, we were given delicious, good smelling food, and for some reason the smell continues into the state of ihram, then no, not allowed, ihtiyat wajib, you must wash the mouth. But then we need to use soaps and shampoos to clean ourselves, and nowadays these are all fragranced. No, not allowed in the state of ihram. So before you enter into the state of ihram, when you went for the ghusl and the wash in the building, before you proceed to the miqat, you can use shampoo which is fragranced. You can use, because you're not in ihram as yet, lakini you must make sure by the time you reach the miqat, you have sweated enough so that all the good smell of that shampoo or the soap is out from your body, so that at the time when you enter into ihram at the miqat, nothing remains. Otherwise, go and take another shower at the miqat if still the smell lingers on. Cigarettes which are fragranced, ihtiyat wajib, no, in the state of ihram. Kafara applies to a situation where a person knowingly, purposely, deliberately, he could avoid, didn't avoid, used a perfumed soap or shampoo and applied it to the body or to the clothes. No, but if somebody forgot the rule, or no, somebody was not aware of the rule, doesn't matter, then it's not sinful and there's no kafara, but something haram has been done and therefore immediately it should be washed away. Again, food which is fragrant, sometimes some rice qualities are good in fragrance. Again, no problem. You can eat that but don't smell it. Spices, no problem. You can eat it but no smelling. Any other item which is fragrant, the same rule will apply. Be careful, there should be no fragrance. Again, this rule is so strict that if you break the law once, one penalty. You break the law twice, double penalty. It's not like fasting. A person drinks and eats, broken the fast. Haram, sinful. Does it purposely, there's one kafara. Then you go and eat a second time. There is no second kafara for that. There's only one kafara, though you may eat a double time. But in the case of perfume, it's so strict that if a person applies it to their clothes not once but double times, or they consume perfume food double time, haram double, kafara also double, $200 for example, for that violation. Air freshener was applied. I didn't know. Somebody is taking care of this building and they came and applied air freshener to come and receive the Hajj. No, haram, you can't smell. Make sure you close your nose. Open the window so all the good smell escapes. What if you face a problem whereby going to the haram, on this side there is a Hajji who's finished his ihram and now he has applied perfume. And on this side there's some garbage also and there's some bad smell, and both of them are at the same place. You turn your face this way, good smell. You turn your face that way, bad smell. What do you do? And Obviously, the best way is to run away from there. But let's say you're stuck. There is traffic, the police has stopped everyone. And this Hajj is smelling very good. But this garbage is also smelling bad. Because of the garbage, I must keep my nose open. Because of this Hajj, I must close my nose. But I've got only one nose, though I've got two nostrils. So what do? Maybe I should close one half of my nose, the one which is to the Hajj, and keep the other side of the nose open towards the garbage. But the rule is haram to smell the good, wajib to keep the nose open and take in the bad smell. So of the two, if you can't do both, then the preference is you must hold your nose and avoid the smelling of the good and then run away. So bad smell I'm supposed to take in. Haram to close my nose. But what about the exhaust fumes? You may get stuck in traffic and the buses keep out spewing exhaust fumes. Again, stop breathing, don't take in the smell. What about masks? If it is haram to block the smell which is bad and wajib to close the nose from good smell, am I allowed to wear a mask? If the mask blocks the bad smell, then not allowed. Otherwise, you come across that situation, remove the mask, or no, inside the mask, stop breathing and walk away as fast as you can. The only situation where you're allowed to use the mask, though the mask blocks the bad smell, the situation which is allowed is if you're sensitive to dust. For medical reasons, you need, because otherwise, let's say it provokes a sensitivity reaction, you get asthma attacks, for example, no problem. For that, you're allowed to use the mask for medical reasons. Or no, the fumes, you're sensitive to the fumes, you can't take in it, makes you dizzy, makes you unwell, makes you miserable, you can't continue doing your ibadah, no problem. For medical reasons, allowed. However, the restriction is about the face cover for women. So women have to be careful. If not medically necessary, they're not allowed to use the mask. But if they do use the mask, there is no kafara for the ladies. Why is it that the Sharia is so strict with the perfume and fragrance? Well, fragrance definitely has an effect on our minds, on our moods, on our feelings. In fact, it has been even found to have effect on our memories, on our dreams, and it can arouse some desires in us. And fragrance, it's a rich money-making industry, the perfume industry. Anywhere you go to these shopping malls, and you find the number of shops that sell perfume is quite big. If they're not making business, what are they doing? So perfumes have a powerful effect. And that's why, in fact, even medicinal effect. There's something known as aroma therapy. So essentially, because we are presenting ourselves to God, and we want our feelings and our thoughts and our moods and our mind to be under our control and not to be distracted by the dunya or to want to show to others or to engage in luxury or to be distracted and diverted. Ihram is be as simple as possible. Be as much detached from the dunya and what the people of the dunya are engaged in. And therefore perfume becomes an example of how to achieve it. Under beautification, there is something known as self-beautification through any other means. So for example, a person applies henna in the state of ihram. No, not allowed. If henna is for the purpose of beautification and if it is a beautifying agent. There's only one situation where henna can be allowed, and that is if it is a simple type which is not a beautifying type, and the way it is applied is not for beautification purposes. It's being applied for medicinal reasons. I don't know, somebody has a skin problem, scabies or eczema or some fungal infection, and it has been recommended use henna for medical reasons. No problem, for that situation allowed, but it should not be decorative, and the niyyah should not be decoration. What about wearing a ring? If the purpose of wearing the ring is not decoration and beautification, no, you're wearing a ring because some stones are mustahab, sunnah, no problem. No, you are wearing a ring because it's a valuable item and you wish to protect it, not for beautification purpose. Or no, tawaf. Tawaf, you want to count the number of rounds. So you're wearing a ring and you're going to count, and you're going to shift your ring in through your fingers to keep a count on the number of tawaf. The purpose now is not decoration, not beautification. For this purpose, as the Sistani allows, no problem. Though other mujtahids say no. Jewelry, again, it's beautification, so no. Even if the person says, my niyyah is not beautification. No, jewelry has been designed for beautification. However, in some cultures, there is a basic minimum jewelry that women will wear. Some old cultures and customs, you'll find there's a small ring on the nose. Even if it is not khushali, even if it's not celebration, that lady will wear that. That's the normal, usual, customary, traditional jewelry. That is allowed in the state of ihram. Lakini, ihtiyat mustahab, she should not expose it to the na-mahram. I'm skipping other issues which may not apply immediately. Beautification, what about a person wants to comb the hair or set the hair? Is that counted as beautification? No, that is not beautification. You can comb your hair and you can even set your hair by the hand. It's very hot, it's sunny, I want to wear goggles. If the goggles are not only for sun protection, but also they've been designed in such a way that they are beautifying, then no haram, the decoration part, halal, the protection part. So you'll have to look for simple goggles which have no decoration. Conclusion of this category B. It's serious, because not only is it haram to violate these rules, there's a penalty to be paid. So oil, if perfume, $100. Kuhl, meaning the eyeliner, $100. Nail trimming, $100. Hair trimming, $100. Looking into the mirror for the purpose of self-beautification, $100. These are estimates. In one of the past years, the value of a goat or sheep was around $100. But amongst this, the most serious is the perfume. To apply it to the clothes or to consume it, as many number of times as you do it, those number of times you have to pay a penalty. I stop here for beautification. Next category is contact. But before I continue, any questions? Any clarifications? Yes, please. If somebody has the bad habit of biting nails, you see, the general principle in ihram is that we are supposed to enter into a state of strict self-control and self-monitoring. And even if we have certain habits, we should therefore exercise extra care not to continue with those habits. We will discuss one of the prohibitions. It will come under category D, that is hunting. It doesn't apply to us these days, hunting. But in the Quran, hunting is mentioned as a test. So the ayah in Surah Ma'idah says, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, la taqtulu as-sayda wa antum hurum. Don't hunt and kill the prey animal, the wild animal. Domesticated animal for your meat consumption is no problem. It's the wild animal hunting. Then Allah says that in order to test you, and He will create a situation where He will make an animal of prey come into your zone, into your area, such that within an arrow shot, you can hunt that animal. Or no, I will bring the animal even closer to you. So close, all you have to do is grab it. And now I'm testing you. You're in the ihram state. Are you going to do it or not? This is in Surah لَيَبْلُوَنَّكُمُ اللَّهُ بِشَيْءٍ مِّنَ الصَّيْدِ. Allah will definitely test you. Not He may test you. Definitely He will test you. Well, that's how He comes to know. لِيَعْلَمَ مَنْ يَخَافُهُ بِالْغَيْبِ. So therefore it will be determined who is the one who is truly respectful of God's laws when they are tested. So the habit is a test. The person will have to be extra careful. Everyone will be tested in their own ways. Everybody has a weakness. And that's where the test comes. If it happens unknowingly, no, Allah forgives. In the same surah, the next ayah says, but if it has been, this penalty only applies for the one who hunts muta'ammidan, purposely, knowingly, willfully. Accidentally, no. Yes, please. What about toothpaste? Same rule applies. If the toothpaste has, I don't think so they apply perfume in toothpaste, but maybe there's some fragrant, good smell. So close your nose and use the toothpaste. But no, if you know it is perfume, then haram to use the paste. Then you make sure you use some alternative. Maybe some salt, or maybe some other paste which is odorless and has no good smell. Yes, please. Bleeding on brushing the teeth. I will come to that under, I've kept it under the category D, where tooth is going to be discussed, bleeding of the tooth, for example. So if you allow me, we continue into category C. Category C, I say, is the contact restrictions. To contact your own spouse with lust and passion. What is the rule about that in ihram? To contact and touch and beyond touch. With passion and lust, with a na-mahram, God forbid. There are restrictions in ihram and there's a penalty for that. And what about contacting your partner, legal partner, mahram, to look at them, to touch them, but without lust? This much is allowed, there's no problem. To talk to them, to look at them, to touch them, all without shahwa, without lust and passion. Problem is in ihram with shahwa. So observe. So with a legal partner, I will not discuss the highly intimate levels of contact. But let's say touch. Touching your own legal spouse, but with shahwa, with passion and lust. Haram. No, you should not do it. Otherwise, be ready to pay. For one touch, I don't know, one of the years the price of the sheep was $130. One touch, $130. Oh, I made a mistake. If it's a mistake, God forgives. But you return that touch again, now the penalty applies. It's haram, and the penalty applies. This can happen very innocently. Some spouses prefer, I don't know, some Hajj groups will allow spouses to be together. So long as you're on the plane, no problem. In the bus, no problem. But once you reach Medina, and now from Medina you wish to go to the miqat, and from miqat now in the state of ihram to go to Mecca, and spouses are sitting near each other, the third one is shaitan there now. And that test will begin to apply, Sasa. If shahwa comes in between and you touch the spouse, or no, ibadah, samahani, I want to ibadah, I want to help my wife, so I want to go together. So they go for tawaf. In tawaf, he feels, oh my God, there's so many people around, I need to protect my wife. So now he embraces his wife. And then he's moving slowly. So sahapa, shaitan comes in. The moment shahwa comes in, you must release. If you don't release, haram and pay $130. That's how serious it is. No, but it was just with shahwa, there was no excitement. Haram to touch with shahwa. Okay, what about just looking? If the look to the halal spouse is with shahwa, haram, not allowed. And God forbid if the look of shahwa then leads to excitement, then one of the highest penalties ever, a camel, roughly $1,000 for this breach and violation of this restriction. But no, if the look was with shahwa, it was haram, but it did not lead to the excitement, then there is no penalty. Though, ihtiyat mustahab, even for that, penalty should be paid. What if a person who was no shahwa, holding the spouse, protecting, but unplanned, accidentally, incidentally, it led to excitement. The niyyah was not there, but the effect was there. Then here also there is no kafara. Again, this is just like the perfume. You touch a second time, a second $100 purposely. But you say, I'll control myself. Sawa. So shaitan will try to knock on the door of the heart to influence it. So the moment the shahwa enters, release. If it's just a passing, fleeting thought, control it. So there is no kafara for that. But then sometimes shaitan starts arguing with you. So she's all alone, she's vulnerable, she's weak. What will happen to her if I leave her? She will, how can she be all alone? No, haram is haram. Otherwise, be ready to pay the $100. No, but if I don't help her, her life could be in danger. This is an exception. This is darura, sasa. Darura, no problem. For emergency help, you're allowed to touch. And God forbid the touch can, if it becomes with shahwa, it should be avoided, but if it happens, there's no kafara. This is as far as the legal halal spouse is concerned. Contact and looking and touching and beyond with na mahram, same rules apply. You can't look with shahwa. And if you do look, then there's a kafara to be paid. And that kafara, if it leads to excitement, the kafara is camel, $1,000. Oh, but I can't afford. Then give a cow, $500 roughly. I can't afford. Then no, pay a sheep or goat. Of course, if the look with shahwa does not lead to excitement, no penalty. Conclusion, be careful. Looks and touches are expensive in ihram. I finish this discussion. Any questions before I go into the next group? So why is it so strict and so expensive to enjoy the mut'ah? You're calling this umrah tamattu'. So where is the mut'ah? No, the tamattu' is after ihram. After completion of the ihram of umrah, before you go into the ihram for Hajj tamattu, that interim period, that's where you can have the tamattu, but not in the state of ihram. So why is God so strict? Because sababu, one of the greatest weaknesses that human beings have is their sexual urges. Unregulated, unsupervised, uncontrolled, they lead to a lot of problems in marital life, before marriage, after marriage. So you notice that the Quran also, for example, in Surah 23, Surah Mu'minun or Surah Ma'arij, Quran praises a lot the act of self-control and modesty. And Imam Zainul Abidin alayhi salam also reminds Shibli that once you entered into ihram, did you make the niyyah that you will consider everything else haram on yourself which Allah has prohibited. The next category is the defense category. I say we could talk about the removal of the tooth, the removal of blood, the carrying of arms, the hurting of insects, and the hunting of animals. I will not talk about carrying arms because obviously the government, you will not be allowed to board the flight here, you will not be allowed to land in the country there, you will not be allowed to pass through the security checks with arms. So this doesn't apply to us. This was more applicable in the past where people travel alone in the deserts and they needed some protection, self-protection. They needed weapons to hunt animals, but it doesn't apply to us now. So I'm skipping the arms. Blood. In the state of ihram, blood removal is haram, but with three conditions. Blood removal, if it is unnecessary, then it is haram. But if it becomes medically necessary, I need a dose of injection and a drop of blood will come out. No problem, that's necessary, it's allowed. And blood removal, which is haram, is if you do it by yourself. But then if you're doing it for somebody else, you're the nurse or you're the doctor, or no, you're a trained helper who can administer an injection. And that will cause blood removal from your patient. No problem, that is allowed. You're not doing it on yourself. You're doing it on somebody else. And blood removal, not only by injection, in any which way which leads to bleeding. Person gets an itch, begins to scratch and scratch and scratch and scratch, and begins to enjoy the sensation of relief, and then now blood comes out. Haram. But then what are you telling me? I should continue to suffer the itching and not scratch? Well, incidentally, this question was asked in the hadith. The Imam ﷺ says, papasa. Just pamper. You have to fool these nerves, these itching, firing nerves. Fool them and they'll sit quiet. You don't need to scratch with your nails to give you relief. Question which was asked was about the toothpaste and the toothbrush. Here there's a difference of opinion, so be careful. A person knows that his or her gums are sensitive. They brush vigorously, it'll cause bleeding. So then don't vigorously brush lightly. Some people are so sensitive, even a light toothbrushing will cause some bleeding, then no. Hazrat Marwatul Khoi says no. If you know it's going to cause bleeding in the state of ihram, which is not necessary, what do you want to brush your teeth for? You can use other methods of cleaning your mouth. Hazrat al-Sistani says no, it's allowed even if you know brushing will cause bleeding, because miswak, according to him, is one of the highly recommended acts. And the Prophet ﷺ, according to one hadith, says that Jibreel would recommend and repeat the recommendation about using the miswak so much. Oh, incidentally, miswak has been found to be quite effective and useful. There's one company in one of the European countries, they are now marketing miswak, brush made from miswak. So miswak is highly recommended. The Prophet ﷺ says that, I thought Jibreel is almost going to make it wajib. it's that much recommended. So according to his understanding of the hadith, it's not haram in the state of ihram. So a person does do something that leads to bleeding, the penalty is mustahab, not wajib. What about tooth removal? Again, who is removing the tooth? Remember, causing bleeding from oneself, not allowed. So if you can continue having that tooth, which you know if you remove will cause bleeding, don't remove it. But if the dentist does it, no problem. Because if it becomes a medical necessity, there is somebody else doing it. So, removal of tooth, if no bleeding, no problem. But if it bleeds, Hazrat Sistani allows, the others make ihtiyat, not allowed. A dentist can work on others and remove their teeth if necessary, even if it causes bleeding. Because remember, the dentist is in the state of ihram, but he's not removing blood from himself. He's administering a care to others, and that is causing bleeding to others. Then that's no problem in ihram. Hurting of insects. This problem arises more when we are out in the open. So let's say between miqat and arrival in Makkah, on the way, if the bus stops and you'll be out in the open in the restaurant, let's say, and there may be some ants or some insects or some mosquitoes who may come to you in the state of ihram, then what do? Or more so in the second ihram, the ihram of Hajj, when we go out in the desert to live in Arafah and Muzdalifah and Mina. Then the rule of hurting insects is that if the insect is harmless, it's just an ant or it's a fly. Harmless insects, haram to kill. But if it's an insect which is harmful, so maybe it's a virus carrying mosquito, then no, you're allowed to protect yourself and you're allowed to kill that insect. So if it's a fly or a mosquito or any other insect, and if you fear, reasonable fear, not irrational fear, reasonable fear that there is potential danger of getting infected through this insect bite, then you're allowed to remove that insect. Only if there is no other way to protect yourself. So if there are ants around you where you're sitting in the ihram of Umrah Tamattu on the way, or no, where you're sleeping in the ihram of Hajj out in Arafah or Muzdalifah, then these ants should not be killed. They're harmless. What you can do is just move them away, or you move away. What about use of an insect spray? Well, it depends what is there in that insect spray. Is it just going to scare away the insects away from your room? Or no, it's going to kill harmless insects. If it's going to kill harmless insects, then not allowed, but otherwise yes. Again, reminder, of all these actions under defense, the only one which is serious is carrying arms. Finally, the last group, and that is what I call the ethical group, and that includes the quarreling and speaking lies. Fusuq is something which is mentioned in the Quran. فَمَنْ فَرَضَ فِيهِنَّ الْحَجَّ فَلَا رَفَثَ وَلَا فُسُوقَ وَلَا جِدَالَ فِي الْحَجِّ. In the state of ihram for Hajj or Umrah, fusuq is not allowed, and therefore all Muslims, all mazhabs have prohibited this based on this ayah of the Quran. But what is fusuq? That's where there is a debate. Different Muslim scholars have interpreted differently, but in the mazhab of the Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam, the fatwa is that fusuq means to speak lies. To speak lies outside ihram, haram; inside ihram, doubly haram. Or no, beyond speaking lies, God forbid, to abuse someone, to degrade someone, to hurt someone with bad words. Haram. Outside ihram, doubly so inside ihram. And the third prohibited act under fusuq mentioned in the hadith and the basis of the fatwa is mufakhara. Mufakhara is to boast and to show off in such a way that if you're just talking about your wealth status or your family or your social status, you're talking about yourself, then according to the mujtahid is allowed. However, if your intention and the effect is that the way you're presenting yourself is that you're comparing, you're degrading, you're humiliating, you're hurting the believer, then no, this type of speaking of oneself and one's privileges becomes haram, doubly so in the state of ihram. This is a serious restriction. According to Hazrat al-Sistani, you have to pay $500 for showing off your wealth in such a way that you degrade somebody else and you hurt somebody else's feelings. Of course, he says is ihtiyat mustahab, but important is to do istighfar for such acts. Finally, the last restriction, and I stop here. In the state of ihram, the Quran says, لا رفث ولا فسوق ولا جدال في الحج. Jidal means to dispute with another person, to argue, to quarrel with another person. But, again, because of the Quranic verse, all the mazhabs will say, no, it's haram. However, in the mazhab of Ahlul Bayt, the jidal is not any type of dispute, any type of argument, a specific type of argument, where in order to prove your point, you begin to swear in the name of God. I swear by God. In order to prove your point or to disprove somebody else. And you begin to use God's name, Wallahi and Billahi. Or no, not necessarily taking the name of Allah. Taking any other name of Allah, not allowed. And not necessarily taking an oath in the Arabic language. I swear to you by God, even in the English language. Quran Juso. No, not allowed. Whichever language. Naapa kwa jina ya Mwenyezi Mungu. Not allowed in any language to use the name of God to prove your point. So if somebody does that, and if the intention was to take an oath in the name of God, whichever language, then it's haram and there's a kafara. But no, your intention was not to mean it as an oath, then no problem, there's no kafara. Kafara only applies then also when you meant it and what you are speaking is true and you repeated God's name 3 times, then there's a kafara, $100 to be paid for that. So why is there restriction about jidala fil hajj? To make abusive talk or hurtful talk, degrading talk, disputing and quarreling and using the name of God to prove your point. Normally, argumentation, disputation, this leads to ill feelings, bad feelings, putting somebody down, and unnecessarily creating enmity. And therefore, in the state of Hajj and the state of Ihram, your purpose is to please God and to also serve the creation of God and not do anything which will cause hurt or ill feelings towards the others. Conclusion. Ihram enables us to enter that state of mind and that state of self-control and restraint from certain prohibitions to qualify us now to enter from the miqat to the haram and from the haram to the Balad al-Haram, the holy city of Mecca, and from Balad al-Haram to Masjid al-Haram, the holy mosque, and ultimately to prepare for the tawaf. All of this is preparation. So the next discussion will be about tawaf, inshallah. I stop here for the moment. Any questions, any clarifications? So let's pray to Allah that He grants us the tawfiq. Now that, oh sorry, yes, yeah. Yes. The place of paying the penalty is after completion of the ihram of Umrah Tamattu' to pay the kafara in Mecca. And after completion of the ihram or coming out of the ihram of Hajj Tamattu' to pay the kafara in Mina. But if for whatever reason the person doesn't do it, forgetfully, or no, even, God forbid, purposely, he doesn't do it, the penalty payment either in Makkah or in Mina, then they are allowed to do it once they come back home, no problem. Let's pray to Allah that once that we thank Him for this invitation that He has given to us. He has blessed us with the ability and the capability to make this journey. But this journey should not only be a physical journey, it should be a spiritual journey, a journey where we change ourselves and transform ourselves and move away from the sins in the past and become a better person, inshaAllah. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.